It was a mixture of drama and legal fireworks at the Federal High Court in the nation's capital, Abuja, yesterday, where the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, was expected to appear before Justice Binta Nyako. Well, Arise News' Tunji Olanipekun reports that the full trial of the IPOB leader could not continue because of the failure of the Department of State Service to produce him in court.
Dramatic scenes at the resumed trial of Nnamdi Kanu, leader of the separatist movement IPOB. Many of his supporters had besieged the Federal High Court premises in Abuja in their numbers to witness Kanu's trial, but were unable to see him amidst harassment by security officers.
Police just came from nowhere that we are distracting the attention, we are making noise, that we should leave the environment, or else he would do us one or two things. We thought he was joking, and he now left and still came back when they were intervening us. The next thing, he removed a pistol that he wanted to shut one of us down.
We will be doing it. For the fact our leader is here, we'll be doing it. Even though they are threatening to kill us, that means all of us are ready to die.
Many journalists eager to report the trial were also excluded, with only a few lawyers allowed to gain access into the courtroom. This led to a protest by some legal practitioners.
I was sent from Aba to come and represent Aba Igbo lawyers' interest in this matter. And now I came to say today I have to come very early this morning. Very serious scrutiny at the gates before we had access to come to inside this court. Now we're inside this court. Now allow us access to the court hall is a problem. Why? We are lawyers.
With the court now ready for the day's proceedings, Kanu's arraignment could not fully begin because the Department of State Service failed to physically produce him in court. The prosecution cited logistics failure and the annual vacation by court judges, which begins today, as excuses. The prosecutor then requested an adjournment. After hearing from both parties, Justice Binta Nyako then gave 3 orders, which is that the trial cannot continue unless Nnamdi Kanu is provided physically in court, that she cannot act as a vacation judge unless the prosecution seeks permission from the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court mandating her to do so, and that Nnamdi Kanu must be allowed to have access to his lawyers twice a week.
The Nnamdi Kanu we are talking about today, it's a person that was abducted in Kenya on July 19th, on June 19, 2021, then tortured, subjected to all forms of inhuman treatment and degradation, inflicted with grievous bodily harms, which is still in his body today. So after spending 8 days, after subjecting him to all sorts of torture, then he was handed over to the Nigerian security agents 8 days after. So on the 29th, they brought him to court. So what I'm saying is that we are talking about gross violation of Geneva Convention Protocol, which agreement Nigeria entered into in 2001. This is very fundamental.
Indeed, I can only say I'm disappointed. I thought I was going to see Nnamdi Kanu as certified that he's alive and breathing. But as it is now, we wait.
Are you worried that you can't see Nnamdi Kanu?
Why not? It's my son. Of course. And whatever situation, he is my son. And I don't know what they did to him in Kenya and what I do to him now here in Nigeria.
Now it has been adjourned to October 21, and we are still saying we have never seen Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Is he dead or alive? We want to know, where are his people? Let me tell you something. You may think a man is stupid, but if anything happens to him, those who own him will simply come out to see what happened to our son.
It was a tough say for the court officials and security men as supporters of the IPOB leader later besieged the court gate after the departure of the DSS and other security agencies, singing praises of their detained leader. Sunji Olanipekun, Arise News.
Well, so Nnamdi Kanu was not provided in court yesterday. Logistical challenges,
Why?
They said. Logistics.
Logistics challenge, based on logistics now. Is that the case? I mean, no, that because it's obvious. It's based on logistics. When we want
That's
to
straight from Big Brother.
Big Brother. It's based on when we want to embed things. It's based on logistics. It was
Based on logistics.
Based on logistics.
Yes.
We're supposed to produce him in court. You know, the painful part is, a lot of people were arrested. For what reason? Only to think that Nnamdi Kanu was not even in court and people were arrested. We can't keep doing this as a nation. We must be seen to be fair to all. Now the case has been adjourned to the 21st of October. Hope by then we will not hear based on logistics again. It wasn't provided. Because when you look at all the brouhaha, a couple of journalists from an association saying other journalists will not enter the courtroom, getting an edict from the court, somebody signing it from the court, and only to think that Nnamdi Kanu wasn't even going to be in court. Based on logistics. And based on logistics, people too were arrested, saying they want to come. And so why was all of this brouhaha in the first place? Why was the police that came to keep cordon over that area, why were they there in the first place when Nnamdi Kanu was not going to be in court? And all we hear is based on logistics. Anyway, some merits about it, I'm sure Dr. Ebati will expatiate, is the fact that now the lawyer, they've told the lawyer that he can see him at stipulated time, because they said they were not forthcoming as regards him having rights to see his counsel and the likes and all that. Dr. Bati, I know you know how to put the meat of the matter
and despite the court being
here.
on recess, they can now have a fiat.
Well, okay. I mean, let's try to be fair to all parties concerned. You recall that the last time that Mazin Nnamdi Kanu appeared in court, July 26th, right? Yesterday was fixed as the date of the next appearance. However, within that space, the courts went on vacation. And the point made by our Lordship Justice Binta Nyako was that, one, she's not a vacation judge. And so, you know, the whole exercise yesterday was at one level meant to fulfill all righteousness. Nothing will have happened. Except there will have been a prior request to move the case away from our court to a vacation judge. So, and I think it was on the basis of that that she said, one, she's not a vacation judge. If this case must continue, okay, it will continue after vacation. And so they moved it to October 30. But the counsel to Nnamdi Kanu, they had specific prayers. And she granted some of those prayers, including one that they would like to have access to him on medical grounds. They would like to know his condition. And she granted that, you know, on the basis of the prayers presented. I think there was also a specific request about him being moved from DSS custody to Kuje prison.
Yes.
I think that was also declined. But what you can criticize would seem to be the entire environment of it and the lack of sensitivity in terms of the process to the politics of the trial. Because I keep insisting, you know, all these trials, whether it's Sunday Igboho or Nnamdi Kanu, have become very political and also very emotional. We had yesterday a specific instance in which lawyers were locked out of the courtroom. Lawyers probably appearing as counsel on both sides, or lawyers appearing as amicus curiae, and lawyers suddenly discovered that in a particular case, they could not be allowed to go into their workroom. It's like a journalist being told you can't enter the newsroom, or a broadcaster being told you can't come into the studio to do your work. So, and I think that the NBA, it's not enough for the NBA to be protesting on WhatsApp. The NBA should take the matter up. Lawyers should be allowed access to their workplace. The other leg of it is that this is beginning to look like it will end up as a secret trial. I've seen some justifications that yes, secret trials are possible, but I made the point yesterday that even if there are certain court rules that allow secret trials, in this particular case, both in Nigeria and in the Republic of Benin, because also in the Republic of Benin, and this is why you were making a point yesterday, there is a different jurisdiction, different practice. But what happened in the Republic of Benin was also the equivalent of a secret trial.
Yes.
So transparency is involved because we're dealing with issues of identity, we're dealing with issues of politics, we're dealing with issues in which emotions, nationalism at the ethnic level are involved. So, and then the last part of it in Abuja, which is the video, was the harassment of journalists. It's not, it's not necessary. Because journalists are the ones to tell the public the truth, to promote the truth, to convey the reality. But in Abuja yesterday, the reports we have is that journalists were harassed. And even in the Republic of Benin, the point I was making yesterday about power and media. Arise News correspondents, I think our cameras were seized.
Yes.
And I hope whoever is the madman that is in charge of that camera at this moment will release it.
Yes.
Because it is unacceptable and it is not necessary in any way. Okay, I'm told we need to go. Okay, let's go on a break. We take a break now, and then when we return, the program will continue.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Show right here on the Rise News channel. Now to the other trial in the news. Yoruba activist Sunday Adeyemo, commonly known as Sunday Igboho, was tried yesterday in Kanu, Benin Republic. Igboho supporters and journalists were barred from witnessing his hearing. Some Beninese monarchs who came to court to support Igboho were also barred from the courtroom. Although many persons were brought to the court in minibuses, one of the buses had Igboho written on them. Reports have it that Igboho had been brought to court earlier than anyone else to avoid the possibility of any drama or clash. The charges against the Yoruba Nation activists border on arms smuggling, inciting violence, and calling for a secession of the Yoruba from the Nigerian state. So joining us now from Kotonu is the Rise correspondent Tokunbo Oyetunji. Tokunbo, pleasure to have you. Hope you're safe. And what happened yesterday night? What happened? Why did they attack you and collect the camera from you and the team?
Yeah, thank you very much, Rufai. Good morning to you and the rest team members. Yeah, what at least we're safe for now. Just I was still trying to see how we can retrieve our camera. Well, if we were to start from what happened, you know, like we reported the last time we were on air, the appearance of Mr. Igboho lasted till very, very much late in the night. The session did not end until about 11:20 thereabouts, because it was at about that time that we saw, since we were bad, we were not allowed, you know, within the vicinity. We were just, you know, watching proceedings or observing from afar. We saw cars that was suspected to be belonging to the lawyers and other officials of the court driving out of the court premises. And at about 11:21 precisely, we saw police vans, a convoy of police vans driving out of the court premises, which we suspected that Mr. Igboho was in one of the vehicles. There was a civilian, a minibus, you know, in that convoy, which suspected Mr. Igboho to be in. We were not close enough to actually sight him in there. We suspected that he was in that van. It was shortly after that convoy left that the two police vans that were just at the junction, the entrance of the court, equally left that area. So what some of the people who were in the court premises with them when the session was going on actually came out and was talking to the supporters, you know, updating them on what happened. That the court decision was that they should take Mr. Igboho away from the police detention where he has been kept since his arrest on Monday to jail. You know, so of course that was some kind of hearsay. We needed to confirm from lawyers and other court sources. So we're trying to call the lawyers to find out from them exactly what the decision of the court was. When suddenly we just realized that some of these people were surging at our bus before we could say anything. Before we came to the bus, They were already on us, pouncing on us, landing some slaps and all that before we knew it. But our driver was smart enough; was already in the vehicle, so we jumped in the vehicle. But some of them were already stuck with the camera with the cameraman. We were able to escape really from the scene, but the camera was snatched. So till this moment that I talk to you, we don't know the whereabouts of that camera, and we're making moves to actually retrieve it. So as regards what exactly happened, what we can confirm is that the court has said that Mr. Igboho should be taken away from the police detention and taken to jail, because the lawyer actually confirmed this in a very short message. We have not been able to speak to them, but confirmed that Mr. Igboho is going to jail. For what reason, for what purpose, we don't know yet. No such details is available yet. So that's what we know so far.
All right, very sad one there. Very sad one. Real quickly. Okay,
I just wanted to ask, Tokumbo, you did mention that these were people who were in the court premises who surged towards you and your cameraman, Sam, as well as the driver, Yusuf. Can you confirm who these people were? Were they thugs around the court premises? Were they Sunday Igboho supporters? How would you describe them?
No, they are supporters, because it's what happened when everybody was chased out of that court. We just allowed, including the supporters, because of course they were the majority of the people around, with just our crew, the crew from the BBC and the few other journalists from Nigeria and around, you know. So the crowd there was a mixture of journalists and supporters of this man, and a lady that we actually identified among them, who was actually coordinating, seeing to the fact that cameras, their phones were not used to record proceedings within the court premises earlier in the day, was among those people who were on the other side and who actually stood at our. So we can confirm they are supporters of Mr. Sonigo. What will have warranted the attack? We don't understand, because when we saw them rushing towards us and we're running, we were like, no, that's them, attack them. For what? We don't know, but we just have to run for their lives. So we really don't know what prompted that attack on us. But we can confirm that they are the supporters of Mr. Igboho.
Well, Tokumbo, these supporters of Sunday Igboho who attacked you, were you able to establish where they are from? Were they, among some of the delegates that came from Nigeria, or persons who are from the Yoruba community in Benin Republic? And have you been able to establish who exactly, which group, which person grabbed the camera? And have you made complaints to specific groups? Because all these groups, they are led by persons. Because it's important that we are able to get the camera back. It's an act of banditry, if I may use that phrase, to seize the camera of a journalist. What is the information you have in this regard? And secondly, what happened that the court did not sit early? I mean, you had been there very early in the morning, and the proceedings went on till very late in the night, Nicodemously.
Yes, let me start from the last question. Till this moment, nobody has been able to, unlike the kind of enthusiasm that we saw much earlier in the day, thinking everybody will be free, everybody will be allowed to see what's going on. I think you earlier mentioned it in your intro about how it could be appropriate to actually describe what happened yesterday as a secret trial. It was a secret one, really, because I don't know the kind of trial that journalists will be sent out. We're not even allowed. In fact, when cameramen and other people who had the recording devices were taken out of the court premises by, I think, the court registrar, because we're trying to explain things to him. He wasn't just in the mood to allow us to do anything. They were saying we needed some permission to film, in the premises, and that permission they could not grant us at that particular time. It had to be rearranged. So they chased everybody with a recording devices. They chased them away, but at least they allowed some of us who are reporters to hang around. But that's what it is, just hanging around. We can't go close to, the offices, the prosecutor's room, and chambers and all that. So we didn't act like. So I'm talking to you, I didn't fight the man himself, but we know that he was in there because he was brought in much earlier than expected. I think the trial was set to be for, the appearance was to be for 10 a.m. or so, but we learned that he had been brought into court before, or at around 7 a.m. to avoid the prying eyes of probably journalists and the supporters. So nobody has been able to explain anything to us why it delay, why they didn't start the proceedings until about 5 p.m. After everybody had expected that, okay, by 10 a.m. they should have started something, but nothing concrete started until about 5 p.m. As regardless, so about 4 or 5 hours after was when they finished, and they drove out of the court premises. As regards the people who attacked us, our thinking is that they are from Nigeria, because the intonation of the Yoruba intonation of those who are based here and those who come from Nigeria, it's different. You can pick when the Yoruba man from Nigeria is speaking to you, and when the Yoruba man from the Republic is speaking to you. If I understand Yoruba very well, so I know our thinking is that because they are from what, and even the pidgin English they were speaking, Madam be this. I won't expect those. It's not likely that the Yoruba, the people, the supporters who are Benino there will speak pidgin. We normally do back in Nigeria. So our thinking is that they're from Lagos.
Well, thank you very much, Tokunbo Yetunji. All we can say to you from here in the studio in Lagos is that please keep safe and please pursue our camera and see how we can get it back. And if there's any intervention that we can make from this end, I'm sure we'll do so. Nobody has any right to steal, because this looks like theft, the tools of a journalist. Thank you very much and all the best. Adeswa, what's next?
Indeed. Well, we'll take a break now. When we return, we'll have Roches Ojiri, Michael Wilson, myself, and Irona Kurjola to give us updates in Africa, global business, as well as COVID-19 and sporting activities from across the globe. Stay with us.
Still the morning show right here on the Rise News channel. We'll go over to Michael Wilson, joins us from London. From France, I should say, from Paris, Michael, or south of France. Goodness me. Hi, good morning, Michael.
Good morning. First of all, a bit of an overview, really, and we're waiting for the Fed and the minutes to come and what they're saying about inflation in the United States and so on. There's an underall nervousness also about China this morning. I'll go on to it. So Asia-Pacific shares, therefore, basically mixed as we're going on this morning. Tencent, Alibaba and Meituan, all those major big tech shares down. Mainland China up very, very slightly. But the bottom line about all this is that there's a great deal of worry about the sort of regulation that China is once again pressing on high-tech companies, and also, as I mentioned yesterday, the education sector as well. So what people are actually doing is they're repricing their risk as far as China's concerned, and that's going to be very, very complicated indeed for investors. The crackdown on education is going to be costing, adds to the cost, $800 billion worth of listed US listed Chinese stocks lost so far as a result of this. Why is the education sector not quite sure at the moment, but more on that. But that's the underlying feature right now of all the Asian markets, and indeed the US too, waiting for the Fed, but also China's regulation as well. global shipping costs have been hit by the floods in China and Europe. It's quite considerable. This has meant not just the blocking of the Suez Canal, which was enabled by that ship, but also a general shortage of shipping containers. And COVID in China has also meant port delays too. It's broken railway lines in Germany, Belgium, Switzerland, Luxembourg and the Netherlands. So this is affecting big transports of wheat and coal, apart from all the consumer items that we're all expecting from there. Let us therefore recap what's happened in the United States. And this 5-day winning streak continues. The Dow up about 0.25%, S&P 500 about 0.25% as well. Big tech's report after the bell tonight, i.e. after trading, probably about the time that you and I are going to bed, or at least thinking about it, late-ish evening anyway. Alphabet, Microsoft, Apple, and so on. And also JetBlue, Starbucks and General Electric just to come out of the high-tech thing. So big stuff happening as far as the United States is concerned. We got indications from Tesla yesterday about it passing $1 billion revenue in one quarter. Shares up about 2%, better than much better than expected. Sold over 200,000 cars in quarter two, and it also gained, and this is important too, $801 million from solar photovoltaics and also energy saving or energy storage systems, which are going to be clearly very crucial as far as the development of electric cars are concerned. Jeff Bezos, he's in the headlines again. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, who is the richest person in the world, and he's offered to get the US back in the space race. And that's got a shortfall of some $2 billion, and he's going to help the United States. He said it's a completely unconditional offer. In other words, he just wants to get the space race started as far as NASA's concerned. Let's come across to the EU now and talk about big firms and big tech coming under enormous pressure. The EU regulators are saying to themselves, there's no point in just having big tech firms slightly worrying about the fines that they might or might not face. You've got to hit them with big stuff. And their competition authority head has said if it means billions of dollars, then that's what we're going to do. So that's a fairly rocky road ahead, I would suggest, for big tech in Europe. As far as the UK is concerned, we're reviewing various tourist rules and so on. There may be a bit of relaxation about tourists coming in from the EU and the US, and with also the airlines themselves. So we're asking some guidance about what's happening with the airline traffic light, or the immigration traffic light scheme. The decision making about this has been far too opaque for airlines, and they're still very concerned about the dramatic fall in profits. I know you wanted to talk about this yesterday, so there is a confirmation now that the Chinese will UK government will try to exclude China from nuclear power plant builds coming up. It's a very, very complicated thing. We'll talk about it after I finish, should you still wish to do so. Yeah. Selfridges is now up for sale, and they're pushing for some kind of solution to this. The millionaire Western family in the United States, billionaire rather family, will be sold for around about £4 billion. They hope to get something set up for that by the end of the year. And oil and gold basically steady, nothing much to report there, just waiting for the Fed really and its view on inflation and growth and so on. And that's when these two commodities will come into their own. But for the moment, trading fairly flat.
Well, Michael, the Americans, they seem to be holding meetings with the Chinese in Tianjin. And, we're told that this is like some kind of meeting to promote communication, good relations between the two countries. Yesterday in Tianjin, there was a meeting between the Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs and also the Deputy Secretary of State of the United States. But at the end of it, the Chinese representative was saying, well, no country can intimidate China. So what is the purpose of these meetings? Exploratory? Will it have any effect whatsoever? And then Tokyo, the Tokyo Olympics. I mean, I wanted to ask you that question yesterday, but we had audio connection issues. What is in it for Japan? I mean, it's a very expensive venture, and as we can see, you know, with spectators not being allowed and all of that. So what is it that Japan will gain from this? The prestige, the publicity, diplomacy, perhaps? What do you think in terms of investment?
What I think is that Japan is trying to push itself forward as being a significant power again in that particular part of the world. They're losing out massively as far as television rights are concerned because of the lack of audiences and so much physical audiences there. And a lot of the people who are taking part, again, I'm no sports expert, but I'm reading that a lot of the people who are actually taking part find it rather strange to do so without an audience. What will be the legacy of the Olympics? Well, I mean, you know, if you look back at the countries that have had Olympics and you see that they've had to build massively, and whether those buildings and those environments of swimming pools and racetracks and all the rest of it are actually being used by the population after the circus leaves the town. That is the question. It may well be good for Japan. Japan's trying to remodel itself. Remember, we're looking at an economy which has basically been asleep for about 20 years. It has done well as far as consumer things are concerned in the 80s and 90s, but recently they've been searching for inflation because what they're suffering from is deflation right now. So it will be very, very expensive indeed. And their former Prime Minister, as you know, has said that he has not attended the games because he feels they're a waste of time. So we're talking about PR and we're talking about publicity, and I'll leave you to weigh up whether or not that sort of thing works. As far as China and the United States are concerned, what you're seeing is high-level discussions in preparation for the meeting of the two presidents of both countries in October this year. That's what all this is about. And there will be noise. They have to come together. They have to cool down. They have to talk about important things, important trade, important positions in the world, not least of which currencies too, in order to prepare for what I hope will be a constructive meeting between the two presidents in October. That's what all this is about right now.
All right, real quickly, Michael, let's talk about Hinckley. So with all of this brouhaha happening between the UK and China, will Hinckley be affected with CNG? Yes, that's the Chinese group. What is going to happen to Hinckley?
All right, all right, let's do this then. So the fact is that China has got a minority stake in the new Bradwell in Essex site. That's the one that really needs to be built. It's got a minority stake in Hinckley, and it's got a minority stake in Sizewell as well. This is a France-led operation. However, should China be forced to withdraw from all this, it will lead a large gap. As far as the UK is concerned, only a fifth of its power comes from nuclear. Now, so if China goes, and China was testing its new technology in Bradwell, which won't come on stream for a long, long time if it were to be actually completed, it will leave a tremendous gap in two things. First of all, carbon-free policy in the United Kingdom, and remember, they're hosting a climate change conference later in the year. Second, and we are expecting a white paper, a sort of consideration by the government, if you like, which draws on a lot of information to try to work out what's going to happen with nuclear policy. But the one thing I can guarantee will happen is if there's no agreement about this, then we will be paying. We, the taxpayer, will be paying a lot more for energy, however it's produced. And that, of course, is a whole new ballgame, because as I've said consistently on this programme, nobody has actually put down in any country around the world how much carbon-free is actually going to cost as we change from carbon dirty fuels into cleaner nuclear or cleaner electric powered, wind powered, solar powered energy. Nobody's done those. The reason that they haven't done those sums is because they're scared. Why are they scared? Because they're scared of finding out the true cost.
All right, it's cumbersome, Michael, really cumbersome. Rotus, how are you? Good morning, Rotus.
I'm good, thank you. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Adesua. Good morning, Doctor. Good morning to all our viewers. MPC, Monetary Policy Committee, they conclude their meeting today. That's, of course, Central Bank of Nigeria, referring to Nigeria now. And as Dr. asked yesterday, what's the likely outcome? Analysts are expecting that they will hold rates steady. Benchmark interest rate should remain at 11.5%. Well, why? Well, one is inflation has been decelerating, as we've talked about. And so there's really no reason on the hiking side, on the hawkish side, to want to raise rates to track inflation. So that's coming down. On the other side, as far as loosening, you don't want to spur too much liquidity into the system, which will now go and chase foreign exchange. So that's the argument against wanting to loosen rates. So as far as keeping things where they are, the central bank also wants to maintain its accommodative stance, looking at, even look at other central banks around the world. South Africa last week held, also expecting Ghana and Kenya to also make decisions, if not today, tomorrow, decisions as well. They're expected to hold. So we'll see how things go on that front. But those are pretty much the reasons why it's a wait-and-see approach as far as the central bank and the Monetary Policy Committee is concerned. So we could be in for a surprise. I mean, even though inflation is decelerating, prices of food items and others are still very, very high. I mean, you're talking of inflation at a 17% level, and then also food inflation at over 20%. So we'll see what happens, but my expectation is that they will hold rates. We'll find out this afternoon about 2 p.m. West African time. To education, President Buhari is in London. He is attending a summit, Global Education Summit on Financing Global Partnerships for Education, the GPEE. It's being co-hosted by Prime Minister Boris Johnson and Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta. The summit aims to bring together heads of state, stakeholders, in order to chart a way forward towards transferring the education sector, for different countries around the world. They're also expecting pledges, 5-year pledges from members in order to get education, supported around different countries. Now, a lot has been said about President Buhari heading off to this education summit. Meanwhile, he's got a lot of education issues here at home. The 2021 budget allocated about 742 or 45 billion towards education. 615 billion of that is recurrent expenditure. Only about 115 or so, the balance, is for capital expenditure. Percentage-wise, that's about 6 or 7%. United Nations requirements is for 16 higher percent, So stakeholders are called that it's a needs improvement. You need more money going towards funding. The education sector is a funnel for jobs for the business sector. There's been complaints. I think the British Council carried out a survey where employers said that there's a massive skills gap, in that what is being taught in schools does not transfer over to the skills that are needed in the workplace. So there's funding issues. There's also, look, let's go into this now. ASU, Academic Staff Union of universities, they are now threatening another strike, saying that they've been going back and forth with respect to the UTAS and IPPS, that is the University Transparency Accountability Solution, which they've put forward to replace IPPS, which is the Integrated Payroll and Personnel Infrastructure System. They're saying the federal government said, okay, we'll replace it, but they've been frustrating the efforts. So there's that. I mean, the last strike, 8-9 months, that disrupted, students being able to graduate, disrupted the ecosystems that sell things to students around the schools. That was there. So they are threatening to have another strike. The timing is interesting, though, considering that this announcement was made as President Buhari is heading off to London for this summit. Maybe they're trying to send a message. And then coming down again to, so we've mentioned funding, budgets, mentioned the skills gap. We've mentioned issues with ASU. There's then, of course, insecurity, which we continue to talk about again. In Kaduna, Governor El Rufai, they've announced that he announced in a stakeholders meeting that resumption of schools has been suspended indefinitely to allow the military carry out its flushing out of bandits. So they don't want any collateral damage with respect to students in Kaduna State. But that's going to have an impact. So when you look at all these metrics, I mean, the program in London, going back to Buhari again, they have a number of issues where they want to talk about the power of education, transforming education for girls, financing for impact and recovery of education, transforming education over the next 5 years. How has education in Nigeria been over the last 5 years? How is it going to be over the next 5 years? So, you know, in terms of the questions that need to be answered here and the issues in terms of what education, the impact on the economy, the impact on jobs, the impact of skills, there's a lot to be addressed. And also, while we're talking education, on the healthcare front, remember the president's cancelled his last trip to London, but now it looks like this trip, this education summit, has given him cover to go for another checkup, which was what he was supposed to go for the last time, but got cancelled. So he's going to be gone for 2 weeks, and he'll be back in the second week of August.
Okay, let's talk first about the president's trip. That has generated a lot of debate and controversy, particularly on social media, since that news was reported. Now, the president, spokesperson, Femi Adesina, tells us that the president is going to attend that education summit. Yes, clearly, education is very important. Nigerians in all regions have been discussing education since 1955. As I said previously on this program, and there was a point in this country when education was a major issue. And the British, they've been involved with Nigeria as to how we can make our schools safe, how we can upgrade the education system. But the only problem with the Global Education Summit is that we're told that it could be a virtual summit and that the Nigerian president, could just have stayed back here and do it electronically. But we have the example of the Nigerian president now going to England just to go and participate in a summit that could have been virtual at a critical moment in Nigeria itself. But he's not alone, as I've written elsewhere. The president of Malawi even went with a 10-man delegation, including his daughter. And the president of Malawi had this disgraceful excuse that the internet in his country is bad. And so, he's gone off also to London to take the expensive option. So the criticism, I don't know what you think of it, but I don't think that the criticism is misplaced. However, spokesman to the Nigerian president made the point that the president also is on a diplomatic mission. He will use the opportunity to have a meeting with Prime Minister Boris Johnson. The details of that meeting, as reported, we do not know. So what is it exactly that they will be discussing? I think it was not right that the details of that proposed meeting have not been made clear. And then the third part of it, we're told that the president will also take the opportunity to attend to his own health. Now, previously, as you pointed out, his medical trip was postponed. So Nigerians now are at a crossroads. They're asking the question, what exactly has the president gone for? Is it the conference that could have been held virtually, or is it the meeting with Boris Johnson that could have been rescheduled or fixed at another time, or, a meeting with his doctors? I think it's important for Nigerians to have transparency, and I hope that now that we have been told that the trip will take up to 2 weeks, that, there will be no extension. Because if there's any extension, that will be, bad management of public perception. That's something that the managers of the president need to pay attention to, because the meeting itself will not take more than 2-3 days. So to go and stay there for a whole month could create unneeded, unnecessary tension back at home. That's what I think. Adesua?
Thank you so much. For COVID-19 updates, let's begin by taking a look at the latest statistics. According to the Johns Hopkins University, over 194 million cases reported, 4.1 million deaths as well, and over 3.8 billion vaccine doses. A reminder that a vast majority of people who get infected recover. However, there are reports of those who continue to have symptoms weeks or months after they've recovered, otherwise known as long COVID. In some countries, it's beginning to become an issue. Well, here in Nigeria, 213 new cases were recorded in the last 24 hours. 12 states were responsible for these latest data. However, Lagos again posted the most infections with 157 new infections. To Tanzania, where the country has received its very first shipment of vaccines through the COVAX facility donated by the United States of America. The planned vaccine rollout marks a massive turnaround after late President John Magufuli had denied the coronavirus was a threat and refused to accept vaccines for the country. Well, Health Minister Dr. Dorothy Gwajima says the vaccine rollout will begin in the next few days with frontline workers, over 50s, and people with chronic illness in the country. Over 1 million doses of vaccines donated by the U.S. arrived at the Julius Nyerere International Airport. Now, as the U.S. battles a wave, just before we go to France, as the U.S. battles a curve of wave of infections caused by the highly transmissible Delta variant, both California and New York City are mandating government workers to be vaccinated or regularly get tested for the virus. In New York City, Mayor Bill de Blasio says the city would require its more than 300,000 employees to get vaccinated by 13th of September or otherwise take weekly tests. His announcement is actually coming a week after the city passed the vaccine mandate for all healthcare workers at city-run hospitals and clinics. Soon after, just the announcement yesterday, California Governor Gavin Newsom said that all the state employees, around 246,000 of them, would be required to get vaccinated starting next month or else be subjected to COVID-19 testing on a minimum weekly basis. In New York, those who refuse risk dismissal without pay. Meanwhile, the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs on the same day said it would require its doctors and other medical staff to get COVID-19 vaccines, becoming the first federal agency in the U.S. to impose such a mandate. And to France now, where despite massive protests against the measure, France Parliament has approved legislation to make COVID passes a key part of daily life and vaccinations mandatory for health workers amid a surge in infections across the country. Now, Monday's move means people visiting restaurants and other public venues or those undertaking domestic travel or trains and aeroplanes will be required to show proof of vaccination, a negative test, or recent recovery from the virus. All workers in the healthcare sector will also be required to start getting vaccinated by September 15th or risk suspension in France. You will recall that just on Saturday, over the weekend, more than 160,000 people took part in a protest held in several cities in France.
I mean, the protests are everywhere in France, and people are talking about this. And the fight has always been, oh, vaccine passport, must I have a vaccine passport to be able to move around? But for people that argue that way, yeah, they argue about violation of human rights. I'd say that it's COVID that brought us into all of this. I mean, nobody was going to restrict anybody, but we all have a virus, we have a pandemic we need to deal with. What is the way possible? Through vaccination. Not because we just want to tout it, but science has shown that the more populations get vaccinated, the reduction in the cases, and the quicker people can move back to their normal life. So I know everybody is tired of this, tired of all the COVID rules and all of that, tired of the quarantine. But where we are going, like they say, is not as far as where we're coming from. I mean, we've gone through the lockdowns. There was a time we didn't even have vaccines in the first place. So please, let's not have this COVID fatigue. I know it's apparent, it's there. People want to go back to their lives. And why people were protesting is that normally at this time of the year, leading up to summer, Paris is normally very empty. I think there's a month, I think around August, everybody gets out of Paris. Everybody goes on holiday. But that's not the case. There are these restrictions. Secondly, we should also tighten our vaccination. I was saying yesterday about the fact that, yes, we got some new vaccines in, but it's still a drop in the ocean based on the population spread. The reason why vaccinations are happening is because you want to build herd immunity. How do you build herd immunity? Get a certain threshold of the population, about 70% to be vaccinated, so that even if you have a disease outbreak, then a lot of people can fight those diseases. We don't have that case in Nigeria. We've only expended about 3.9 or 4 million vaccines vial. And that's about, if there's 2 jabs, that's about 2 million people vaccinated, close to about 2 million. That's the population of people vaccinated. In a population well over 200 million. How quickly can we expedite action on that? And the long thrust about vaccination is still about producing your own vaccines, because that's what will get you further. The nations that are developed, that have done a lot of intellectual property, will not give you that intellectual property. Let's not deceive ourselves. And this is why if I do an intellectual property work, even in the midst of pandemic, I will not be so forthcoming to release it just like that. That's why the best deal they can do for us is things like fill and finish and packages like that. So if that is not forthcoming, even if the South Africa fill and finish plan starts up, it's not going to be that huge.
Quickly, on France, I mean, there have been protests on the streets of France. 120,000 persons, 160,000 persons are protesting on Saturday against the government. And they're saying that, look, the major issue is not just about vaccination. It is about individual rights. Yes. Your right to choose whether you want the vaccine or not. But France faces a fourth wave. And so the government is saying that you have to take the vaccine. Otherwise, the state will come after you. And this is one of the big issues about COVID-19. The distance, the province between individual rights and the right of the state to ensure public health safety. Secondly, with regard to Tanzania, I think it is important to note the difference. Although President Samia Suluhu, who took over from John Magufuli in April, does not like to be compared. But you recall that John Magufuli was a vaccine skeptic. He talked about steam inhalation, he talked about prayers, he talked about physical exercise as a solution to COVID-19. And he also did not allow data to be produced about the COVID-19 situation in Tanzania. But we now have a president, a woman, President Samia Suluhu, who, yes, she did not condemn some of the measures taken by John Magufuli, who died at the age of 61. But in her own case, she said, look, about a month ago, that Tanzania will join the COVAX initiative. Tanzania will also allow vaccines to come into the country. And now we have, for the first time, Tanzania getting vaccines through the COVAX facility, through the United States. And we hope, that immunization will begin in Tanzania. What does this tell us? That, look, leadership matters. There's a difference in terms of leadership. And we have Samia Suluhu providing the kind of leadership that John Magufuli, now of blessed memory, could not provide. And it's also a demonstration of the commitment of the United States in terms of his promise that he to provide, COVID-19 vaccines and doses for developing countries and provide leadership. The United States made that point and also restated it at the G7 summit. So, it's a great development that Tanzania is turning around, and we hope that other African countries led by vaccine skeptics, COVID-19 skeptics, will also see in the example of Tanzania, where death rate went up, nobody knew the numbers. The Catholic Church, in fact, went on street protests that, look, there's a difference and leadership can make a difference.
Indeed.
These are the key issues, in my view.
That's all on the COVID-19 update.